Donald Trump has had a lot of luck in his life, and particularly in his political career. One of the biggest pieces of luck that he's had is the fact that he's blessed by his enemies. He has the kind of enemies that could only be described as a blessing. His enemies, or rather political opponents, have just given him the greatest victory he could possibly have hoped for. The Democrats have given him something that even the Republicans couldn't have gifted him. That is now complete and total power. They basically just handed it over to him. You see, the Democrats in the House and the Senate all voted as a unified bloc in the recent budget negotiations. They were very clear. There's a swingeing range of cuts that are about to be imposed on Obamacare recipients. So on tens of millions of Americans, their premiums are about to hike massively because currently there's very substantial subsidies for people who receive a lot of healthcare in the States. And those subsidies were about to be all taken away. So tens of millions of people suddenly couldn't afford healthcare. Now, what the Republicans intended to do with that money was to use it on massive tax cuts. So everybody earning over $500,000 a year would get a massive tax cut, and it would be paid for over $1 trillion of cuts to Obamacare, to the Affordable Care Act. And the Democrats stood firm that we are not going to cooperate with this. We are not going to put our names to this. We will not vote for a budget that takes away so much healthcare from so many people. In other words, that ruins, destroys, and removes so many lives from our public. So they held absolutely firm. And as a result, the government shut down because there was no agreement on the budget. That shutdown was politically supporting and helping the Democrats, because in poll after poll it showed that people blamed the Republicans for their intransigence. After all, they had the majorities in the House and the Senate, and they had the presidency. Why aren't they able to negotiate and pass the budget? It's their responsibility. As Trump said previously, when there was a government shutdown under Obama, it's always the president's responsibility when there's a shutdown. And that's how the public saw it too. They were getting blamed for this. And they were getting shellacked, not just in polls, but in elections. As we know, we had a series of elections last week, and the Democrats benefited hugely from it. So the government shutdown, at the very least, wasn't affecting the Democrats. And Trump himself believed that it was affecting the Republicans. That shutdown actually was something that the Republicans were being blamed for. And he was saying that. He was tweeting and messaging about that and his anxieties around that. It looked like, he was beginning to get really frightened here. And things were beginning to escalate because, airports are starting to shut down flights. And leading up to Thanksgiving, that was something that really would have been felt by the American public. But the Democrats were clear, we're doing this for a reason. We're doing this for the greater good, for the millions and millions of people who are going to lose their healthcare. We can't allow this to happen. So yes, there will be short-term pain, but we want this for long-term gain. And the Republicans were getting nervous. And then what happened? 8 Democratic senators broke ranks and voted with the Republicans to pass the budget. Shutdown over. Confrontation finished. All the leverage that the Democrats had disappeared overnight. Trump, of course, is over the moon. As I say, he is gifted by his enemies. Who needs friends when you have enemies like this? The Republicans offered this same deal that they agreed to right at the beginning. So in other words, this 40 days of government shutdown achieved nothing. It was unnecessary. They could have signed up to the same deal. And what was the deal? The deal is simply to have a vote on whether or not to take away the Obamacare subsidies in December sometime. Well, of course they can have a vote. They're not going to win it, because the Republicans are clear. They already passed it in the budget. So this is a feeble, meaningless deal. It was something that was offered to the Democrats at the beginning. And of course they refused it. But then these 8 senators came on and eventually capitulated.
Democrats, you sold out the entire shutdown not to get what you wanted, but for a promise to not get what you wanted later. Where in the art of war? Hold on. Where in the art of, okay, here it is. I got it. Sun Tzu said, never press your advantage. It's unseemly. Fighting's hard. How about a snack? I can't believe it. And by the way, what good does a promise of a Senate vote even do for you, Democrats? You don't control the Senate. Do you even know how this shit works?
You see, in struggles and battles like this, the most important thing is to have a moral compass, to be very clear why you are here and what you are fighting for. And that moral compass is based on the greater good. That yes, there might be some casualties in the process, which we genuinely regret and we want to mitigate against. But we want to help the maximum amount of people. And in order to do that, we need to hold firm to our course of action. That moral compass is missing from a lot of people. And the inability to be very clear and make a choice that we need to stand strong and to do that in a united way has made the Democrats into an effectively useless force now in Congress. Now, in previous years, leaders of the Democratic Party were able to hold their caucuses together and toe the line. Nancy Pelosi had a small majority sometimes in the House, but she kept them as a united force. And because of that, the congressional terms that she led were hugely productive. Of course, there were times of Democratic majority sometimes, and they managed to form a united force, pass Obamacare in the first place, and do all sorts of amazing, productive, life-changing, progressive legislation. They also stood firm against a lot of the Republican Congresses when they were in the majority as a united bloc. Harry Reid, who was the Senate Majority Leader at those times, also managed to stand firm against some of the worst excesses of Republican presidents and also managed to deliver for Obama when he was president too. Chuck Schumer has lost 8 of his senators who voted against him. And there's rumours that he was secretly supporting him anyway. In fact, they said that the leadership has been fully aware of our position and what we're going to do all along. He released a video saying, I oppose voting for this budget bill, I'm against it. Almost like a bit of an insurance policy. But lots of people suspect that underneath it he was sort of supporting the moderate senators who voted with Republicans. Either way, at the very least, he wasn't able to hold his caucus together to toe the line. And that is an effective, utter failure of leadership.
Chuck Schumer, your protestation be not believable. Look, either all 8 senators who voted to capitulate coincidentally are not up for re-election in 2026, or Chuck Schumer worked behind the scenes to give into the Republicans while still protecting vulnerable Democrats, including himself. You know, that's right.
So, Trump re-entered the Oval Office. He became president. Shortly after that, the congressional Republicans basically gave all their power away to him. They passed everything he wanted in one bill, and they didn't do anything else. They allowed Trump to get away with everything. They didn't scrutinize in any way what the White House was doing. They allowed them to impound money, to make decisions on their own despite congressional mandates, and decide on what money goes where, and basically seize overall power from Congress, which the Republicans were the majority in. So the Republicans basically just lay supine, went to sleep, and let Donald Trump take over the power. The last bastion of power in the United States at the federal level was the congressional Democrats, who weren't in the majority, but at least they could use their minority power to block budgets, because a budget requires 60 votes to pass. So they required Democratic support. This was the one place where they had influence, where they could actually make a difference, where they could actually stop Donald Trump in his tracks. And they did that for 40 days. And they did it on a principled stand. And then they caved. And that means effectively that they have now destroyed all the power and leverage they had in the system. Because the Republicans now know they're never going to amount an effective opposition. All the Republicans need to do is sit tight and wait, and the Democrats will eventually fold. So it's not just that they've lost this battle, they've lost every single one from now on, because the Republicans know their weakness. The Republicans know who the people are who are going to come across, and they know eventually they will always win. And all while conceding nothing. They achieved nothing for it. They extracted nothing for the Republicans from it. So again, as I say, this means the Republicans now have a playbook. We don't need to give an inch. We don't need to give a single inch from anything we want to do, because the Democrats will eventually, enough of them will eventually come round so that we can get everything we want. So the Democrats have basically, effectively handed over all of their power to Donald Trump. And he now has total power across all the Congress and the executive branch as well. This is what the Democrats have handed to him. Not just a budget, but total and overall power. I hope you like my video. As a psychiatrist who loves politics and economics and philosophy, I love to make videos like this, and you can really help promote this video to other people and get it on your feed more by liking and commenting and subscribing to the video as well. We have a wonderful community of people here who comment and support each other through this very traumatic period of world history that we're going through right now. I also hope you consider becoming a subscriber to the channel and also subscribing to my e-newsletter. There's a link in the description, and that way we can stay in touch outside the channel, so you can keep abreast of all of the content that I'm making on an ongoing basis. The latest of which actually is my latest book called We the People. Very, very proud of this book. It's actually a novel, a fiction book written by myself and the famous award-winning author T.J. McGregor. Together we wrote a book about what the future might look like. Bit of a dystopian novel, but what might happen if autocracy goes to its next stage, AI predicting the potential end of humanity. I actually made a video about that, it really happened. And how things might pan out in this dystopian world, and actually how a band of committed, passionate, progressive people managed to change the trajectory, and not in the way that you think. It's not just by running a candidate and opposing the autocrat, but actually by deepening the democracy that we have and engaging in a real participatory form of democracy that sort of shifts the needle and gets us back to basics and helps us sort of rebuild our democracy. And that's within the context of a really compelling, gripping story, a bunch of fascinating characters, and I assure you, you will not be able to sort of stop turning the page until you get to the end of the book. That's what all the reviewers have said so far. Lots of people love it, and I hope you can get it. You can get it on Amazon, any of the global Amazon bookstores out there. Please do order your copy of We the People. Just put We the People Russell Razak and you'll be able to find it inside Amazon as well. Also, I hope you consider becoming a member of the channel. You can subscribe to a couple of different membership levels. All members of the channel also get some free ebooks that I produce once a month. You can buy those ebooks too from russellsbooks.com. That's russellsbooks.com, and every month I produce a new ebook on that channel, which is really about, these are the non-fiction books I produce with my team, which is really about how to learn about the world around us and the psychologies of the people who govern us, but also how to learn about ourselves, deepen our own self-awareness in a way that helps us navigate this difficult world we're in right now. So those are sort of self-help books that are produced every month, and if you're a member of the channel, you get a sort of 100% discount on those books every month. Otherwise, you can go to russellsbooks.com, as I say, and buy them anytime you like. I really hope you can become a part of this community, as I say. So this sort of supportive community, validating and helping each other, is really worth being a part of, and I hope you can join us as we all join forces to create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.